My name is Zihua. I'm with Homeworks Architects, and it's my pleasure to be your host for this evening. I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone here today for joining us in our opening forum. To open this session, let's hear a message from our guest of honor, Minister Desmond Lee, who is Minister for National Development and Minister in charge of Social Services Integration.
Good evening and welcome to the opening forum for Singapore Archifest 2020. I'd like to thank the Singapore Institute of Architects for continuing with Archifest this year and adapting it to a digital setting. Technology has made it possible for us to continue meeting and networking virtually. Your efforts to stay in close touch with your community and support one another is very encouraging. The field of architecture is sometimes associated with glamour and grandeur, from sparkling skyscrapers to awe-inspiring buildings and special monuments. Fundamentally, however, architecture is about creatively shaping the built environment to positively impact our everyday lives and our well-being. It is particularly apt that Archifest's theme this year is how architecture can be a force for good. Now let me share some brief thoughts on two areas of good that architecture can and should tackle. The first is climate change, and the second are contagious diseases. Now, climate change has presented the world with new challenges and risks, leading to serious threats to lives and livelihoods. More extreme weather, such as floods, droughts, and wildfires, have resulted in various countries having to address food shortages, destruction of property, and the spread of disease. In Singapore especially, we face the threat of rising sea levels. The government recognizes these threats and has put in place plans to adapt our built environment. For example, we put in flood protection plans for critical infrastructure and longer-term plans to protect vulnerable coastal areas. However, tackling climate change requires a whole-of-nation effort. The architectural fraternity and the built environment sector, including academia and researchers, play a crucial role in this. And keeping a close watch on climate science and changes to our environment, and developing or acquiring cutting-edge engineering and design solutions to bolster our climate resilience. Implementing these plans will require complex engineering solutions. Designs will have to account for uncertainty in climate science and projections, while balancing this with other principles, such as cost effectiveness as well as livability. Now, it will not be an easy problem to solve, and the stakes are high. But our architects and our professionals are creative and resourceful, and I believe that our industry will be able to adapt and meet the evolving needs of our city and our nation. Now let me now turn to the second existential threat, which is the threat of contagious diseases and illnesses. This is really a posit. COVID-19 has shown us that we cannot take the number and quality of our public spaces for granted. Such spaces are the beating heart of urban social life, in our housing estates as well as our workplaces. Now, it may not always remain so. Globally, designers and architects have been re-examining what constitutes a quality living environment, including various traditional design factors such as ventilation, green areas, natural light, and others. Urban planners and architects have also been looking at adapting building configurations and design principles to manage the spread of contagious disease. For instance, more flexible designs for public spaces to cater to social distancing measures, while also fostering spontaneous and planned community interactions. Now, buildings would need to be designed to be more pandemic resilient now and in the future. For example, reducing high-touch surfaces as well as increasing ventilation. And should working from home become more of a norm, we may need to revisit key assumptions behind town planning and the configuration of office buildings and apartments. COVID-19 isn't the first contagious disease we've seen, and it certainly won't be our last. Our daily lives and routines and workflows have been dramatically altered, but it's still to be seen how permanent these changes might be. Nevertheless, we must capitalize on the lessons that we've already learned from this crisis and continually enhance our understanding and practice of design. I've shared about 2 threats that are especially pronounced for a city-state like Singapore. Improving our climate resilience and managing the threats of contagious disease well are absolutely essential for our island nation with our high urban density. But the government cannot tackle these threats alone. All stakeholders in our built environment sector, public as well as private, must come together. Now, this is the spirit of Singapore Together, where we build partnerships together and help one another to go further than we can each go alone. Archifest's theme this year encapsulates that motivation, as a force for good architecture is not an isolated field, but one that is hugely relevant to all our lives. And I hope that Archifest 2020 will spur an open exchange of ideas and more partnerships formed in Singapore and beyond. I wish all of you good health and fruitful discussions at the various events in the coming month. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Desmond Lee, for sharing with us the importance of collaborative efforts and partnerships to meet evolving needs of the world. Next, the President of Singapore Institute of Architects, Architect Richard Lai, is here to welcome all of you to this opening forum. Architect Richard Lai, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Richard, and I'm the President of the Singapore Institute of Architects. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to join us on a Friday evening. On behalf of the architectural profession, welcome to the official opening of the Archifest 2020. Allow me to begin with a brief introduction of SIA, the Singapore Institute of Architects, and Archifest. SIA was founded in 1963, where we are the official professional body representing architects in Singapore. Our mission is to champion excellence in architecture and the built environment, and our vision is to see Singapore as an architectural capital. This year marks the 14th edition of the annual Singapore Architectural Festivals, more lovingly known as Archifest, which started in 2007. The main aim of the festival is to provide a platform to foster a vibrant design culture and consequently a design-conscious society by encouraging and guiding the general public and design professionals of all fields to interact in a fun and creative and free environment. This year's Archifest is very different from the previous years. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has changed the way the world operates, in some ways the situation has accelerated digitalization of the world, which in turn means that a large part of this year's Archifest 2020 has gone virtual. This is very much aligned with our new manifesto for the architecture profession in these times: engage, digitalize, and transform, which will guide us in collaboration with fellow industry professionals and government agencies to navigate these trying times. In the most recent Archifest held last year, we saw an attendance of 80,000 people in the physical events. With Archifest 2020 going virtual, we hope to see even more participants this year. The theme for this year's Archifest is Architecture Saving Our World, a theme that is simple and bold, yet positive and light-hearted for a sense of optimism and a foil of crisis that our world faces. Some of the highlights in this year's Archifest includes the SIA conference, which will be held from 28th to 30th of September, with speakers from all over the world, and SIA-LES pavilions titled Reclaiming Connectivity, a winning design by ADDP architects in collaboration with OWIU Design. Throughout the duration of the festival, there are also other existing activities lined up for you in the form of forums and workshops. I hope that through these activities, we are able to convey the spirit of creative activism within the profession and help us all understand how responsible design can benefit our ecology and humanity. Before I conclude, I would like to thank SG Glass and Keng for making the SIA-LES Pavilion possible. I also want to thank URA, Design Singapore Council, the British High Commission in Singapore, and IPSEA Management, Constantino Southeast Asia, Forum Far East, and the Embassy of Switzerland in Singapore. I would like to also thank my council, the SIA Archifest team led by Architect Wu Yan, Festival Director Dr. Chong Keng, SIA Secretariat teams, and all those who contribute behind the scenes. Thank you and stay safe. I hope you will enjoy SIA Archifest 2020.
Thank you, Architect Richard Lai, for your inspiring speech. We wish now to take this opportunity to thank our main pavilion sponsor, SG Glass and Keng, Archifest Gold sponsor, Design Singapore Council, Silver sponsor, British High Commission, Bronze sponsor, Graphisoft, and all other sponsors and partners for supporting this year's Singapore Archifest. Thank you for showing us a generous spirit. Let us now hand over the stage to our Festival Director of Singapore Archifest, Dr. Chong Keng, who is also Associate Professor of Architecture and Sustainable Design at Singapore University of Technology and Design. He is also founding partner of Colours, Collectively Ours. Dr. Chong will provide us with an overview of the festival in the upcoming month. The stage is yours, Dr. Chong.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Dr. Chong Keng. Very privileged to be here together with our esteemed panelists today. And I would like to first thank Singapore Institute of Architects for giving us this opportunity to really come together and share with everyone how we can respond to our new theme this year, Architecture Saving the World, the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. Right, with that, I just want to take a few moments to share with us how we come up with the theme. It actually started before the pandemic, when we realized that in the past recent years, there's a lot of concerns over our environment, our social equity, our cultural continuity, and we do see, like what Richard has shared earlier, the kind of activism that has this in our community, in our profession. So we would like to spotlight all this, creative activism in our profession during this festival. And the pandemic actually helped to, in a way, highlight some of these issues that we are really facing now. And then we hope that as a fraternity, we can actually respond to this positively. Thereby, we curate this months of festival to have this kind of knowledge exchange among ourselves and together with the public and the community as well. Next. And this year, we are going to go virtual and ground up. And together we will have 4 main programs that we have lined up for you, starting with the SIA conference that's starting next week. It will be a virtual conference, therefore we're going to have a series of 13 global speakers among the speakers to join us this time. You can see some of them it's really a lot of exciting intervention that actually developed during this time to see how to respond to the crisis that we just mentioned earlier. So we hope that you can actually join us at the conference. And beside that, we also had a virtual exhibition where we gather about 40 exhibits across different industries, not just architects, but we are looking at social enterprises, we're looking at community designers, we're looking at our urban farmers, how we can all come together to actually address some of these issues we have curated into these 3 topics. Our shelters, talking about how intervention and architectural prototype can respond to these new kind of requirements and needs. Our stories, how we can work with communities to actually come up with new empowered design that benefit our ecology and our humanity. And finally, our sanctuary, we talk about food resilience, environmental resilience, and together among our urban farmers and our architects, planners, how can we achieve this 30% local food production by 2030? I think there's a lot of very interesting topics that we'd like to discuss in the next 1 month. And not just the forums, we have also very honored to be partnered with many of our value partners, our urban farms, national libraries, Humanity Youth Center, and many other value partners that display some of the new innovations in architecture through new prototypes and new ideas that we showcase to you. So we can actually respond to the direction of exploring our neighborhoods in a safe manner. Next. And we have also many other events that we have curated. Highlight to you is some of the 10 forums. And in this year's, also very interestingly, that we are partnering with many multinational kind of organizations. You can see Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, UK. We have all these different panels, discussion over the entire month, and that very diverse topic as well. Next, we will also have hybrid workshop and virtual pop-up. So it's really to invite the public to able to join in the discussion as well as join in the knowledge creation to see how each and every one of us have a part to play in saving our world. And earlier on this year, we also have a public call for doodle art and some of the winning design that you can see from here, from primary school, secondary school, tertiary to open category. We are very happy to actually receive more than 80 over entries, and the winning and the shortlisted entries will be showcased at the National Library. So I really urge you to really encourage these young minds to see how they can be our future leaders and perhaps future architectural thought leaders as well. Not forgetting our partner Projector has also carefully curated 7 architecture-related films. I want to watch all of them myself. I hope that this will really, help to enrich our understanding through a very artistic level, how each of the films can give us new insight into how the world are operating. And now I would like to bring your attention to the SIA-LES Archifest Pavilion. This is one of the first time I think we are using this virtual model as a way to showcase the pavilion. And I hope that you can also join us. when we are having this safe reopening, when we can actually have the physical pavilion with us, hopefully we can have a get-together by then. With that, I would like to hand back over to Zihua.
Thank you, Dr. Chong, for sharing with us this month's programs. For now, let's take a moment to view our sponsors' videos.
Hi, Zihua, are we going to show the pavilion?
There will be another video on SG Glass. Let's enjoy this together. I am sure many of you have heard or seen the pavilions of previous festivals and are curious and excited about this year's design. The previous video that you saw was by SG Glass Private Limited and Kingboard Specialty Resins Limited, who co-manufactured this locally innovated, world-patented technology. They use it to print and create an all-in-one lighting system on glass. This product is called LES, short for light emitting surfaces. And what's special is that it has no light bulb, which allows even dispersion of light across a large surface. In fact, it is the only cold light source in the industry that may mix moonshine. So feel free to bask in it with some mooncakes. The winning designer for this year's pavilion is OWIU Design. May I now invite Joel Wong and Amanda Gunawan, founding principals of OWIU, to introduce us to this beautiful pavilion born out of SIA-LES partnership. Let's fly through it on video.
Amongst the 5 golden rules of Le Corbusier, the concept of the open plan became one that people started adopting really quickly. Before the pandemic, we were at the height of our social quotas. We dismissed archaic ideas of floor-to-ceiling walls and promoted democratic layouts. We wanted to continuously enhance collaboration and social activity by creating new typologies that blurred the lines between private and public. We grew to truly embrace the concept of a public space and what it brought to us, a sense of belonging to the community. What happens when we are now confronted with the problem of the fact that public spaces might go extinct? As architects, it is our duty to find a solution. Architecture is an agent for change. It has the power to make a difference. Architecture and design has the power to make a huge impact on someone's life, both collectively and individually. Our job as architects is always to serve the people. At the pinnacle of our priorities is society. What is designed will always be better than what is not. Optimism during this time is difficult but necessary, and it is our responsibility as architects to remain so for the society who has placed their trust on us. At a time like this, it is not enough for us to say that we will do our best, but to ensure that we do. If the purpose of a public space is connectivity, then the solution to creating a public space, given the pandemic, should not be to cultivate privacy. At the root of the concept of this pavilion is people. A socially distant, isolated exhibition space is an easy solution, but it is not the time to choose the easy route. We must still be able to enjoy meaningful acts like visiting an exhibition and still feel part of the community while still keeping ourselves safe. We must continue to reinvent and rethink existing typologies if we have to. Architecture will always be at the front line, and in a time of crisis, this becomes more obvious than ever. Hi everyone, I'm Amanda.
Hi, and this is Joel here.
It's kind of late where I am. I'm in Los Angeles and it's currently 4:30 a.m. So bear with me if we're not talking as well as we're supposed to. But yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present our idea for this pavilion and for choosing us as the winning entry for the pavilion. We're very excited to present this today.
Yeah, so first of all, we would like to also walk through the virtual pavilion. That is basically how we envision the space actually getting built in reality. So you enter this virtual platform where you're able to, the first thing you notice is that it's located in the URA center. And as you navigate through the space, we try to kind of make you immerse yourself as if you're actually experiencing the pavilion. So as we walk through, there'll be callouts such as the information panels that enable you to learn more about what the pavilion's about and the way we expect it to be built in actuality. So as you navigate, so first of all, on the right hand side, as you click the right, you're able to look at the plans and able to understand how it's structured and laid out. And there's going to be two portions functions, and the main one would be the main pavilion that we will explore further later, which houses the SG Glass and King box technology, and how we are incorporating it with the existing water feature that's currently in the URA center. So I would say that the pavilion is broken up into two portions. One would be the main pavilion, and then the rest would be the activated public space. So one thing to note is that we designed this all amidst like the circuit breaker period, and everything kept changing as we progressed, right? As we got into further lockdowns over and over again, we began to try to understand how people are going to interact and inhabit the spaces. That's because programmatically we were expecting to have like a proper projected area, projection screen, areas where you can organize events, where there can be more exhibition spaces, things like that. So all of this was slowly incorporated into the design, and we had to address all these functions one by one. So one key part about this pavilion is that it's modular. It's modularly constructed. So the way we designed it was that we expected all these systems and all these parts to be placed in a single shipping container that's able to be disassembled and assembled on and off site within a couple of days, and move it from location to location. So what you see here would be the main activated area, public areas, where you have these seating spaces that allow maximum social distancing, having barriers within one another. So as you experience the pavilion, you're able to navigate through these arrows and kind of have an idea and feel the space of the water feature, the glass, and also learn more about, which I'll show you later.
We want to try to get you to be in the mental state that we were when we were designing this pavilion. So it was during the COVID period, and we were already basically socially distancing from each other. So the last thing that we actually wanted was to come up with an exhibition space that was, again, just another socially distant exhibition space. So I think that was very important to us, and I think the in order to combat that, it was fortuitous that one of the sponsors happened to be SG Glass, and they came up with this new technology, the LES technology, and it very much fit into what we were trying to design and what we were trying to achieve, which is this theme of porosity. So we have two spaces, two main spaces, like Joel explained. So we have the exhibition space, and then we also have a public area where things are supposed to happen. And we wanted people to be socially distant, but at the same time still feel like they are experiencing it together. So that transparency, that porosity, the movement is all very important, and hopefully it's all achieved successfully through this entire pavilion, as well as through as when we play with transparency through the LES glass.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Another thing that we wanted to note was that, again, like, we want to put you in the mental state that we were when we were designing this, and what was it that we missed so much. And I think a lot of us all miss traveling very much. And so in Singapore, we have all our nature reserves, we have all of that, but then we also really do miss going out to other countries and traveling and seeing like different like parts of nature. And so like we wanted to bring that somehow, like a version of that, not the exact version because it's never going to be the same, but we wanted to bring like that experience back into this pavilion to somehow like give that sense of like calmness and like a place where people can seek solace when they feel lonely and when they're like basically engulfed by the solitude of this COVID like quarantine.
Another thing about this virtual pavilion platform is that it's always like a never-ending source of adding more information to it. So as we go along, we're going to be adding, be it new exhibition items, things that you can learn more about, be it the technology. So for example, for the tectonics of the glass print, they were actually taken with photographs by Amanda. And so over here you see like some of these information call-outs where you can pull up PDF and documents. So what's going to happen in the span of the next few weeks would be that you'll constantly be adding more and more information for viewers to learn more. So we want it to also be a very educational platform and system where we can collectively keep contributing to. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, we want everybody to check it out on their own, of course, and experience it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel and Amanda, for sharing with us the thought processes behind this work of art that fits this period so well. We welcome all of you to view the Virtual Pavilion on our Archifest website. When Singapore moves into a safer reopening period, we can look forward to view the pavilion physically, yes, in real life, at the URA Center. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you, our forum panelists for this opening forum. On site, we have architect Richard Lai, President of Singapore Institute of Architects, architect Chin Han Ping, partner of ADDP Architects, Dr. Hossein Rezai, founding director of Web Structures and Web Earth. Tuning in online, we have Ms. Yu-Ning, Chief Planner of Urban Redevelopment Authority, Mr. Sheng, Marketing Director of SG Glass Private Limited, and our moderator, Dr. Chong Festival Director of Archifest 2020, will now facilitate the forum discussion. Dr. Chong, over to you.
All right, thank you, Zihua. Wow, what an interesting way to launch a pavilion. I think it's really different from the past edition of Archifest where we have party and over hundreds of people. Well, I think unprecedented time will require this kind of unprecedented, mindset and technique as well. And we are really thankful to the technology that we have. And one of the things I think Richard mentioned is also about digitalization. I think it's a new kinds of process. I think all of us have to get used to, and also it create a new kind of interaction between people and space. I think that also link back to how are we able to live in this kind of new environment in the digital world, but yet integrated into the natural environment, as Dr. Hossein can elaborate more later as well. But maybe let us start with Chief Planner, URI Chief Planner, Ms. Yu-Ning, to share with us maybe how, as a planning process, respond to this new kind of environment, and what can we expect from the planners for the future?
Hey, Hwang, thanks for that question. Good to be here. I think if we look at the planning approach that Singapore takes, it's really premised on building sustainability and resilience for a city. Because land use planning in Singapore has such unique challenges, like our land constraints, the fact that we are a city and a country. So we do plan for sustainability, and we try to balance all the different requirements. We often review our plans to make sure that the plans stay relevant and cater to changing needs as we go along. And in this current pandemic situation, we saw an obvious advantage of having adaptable and flexible spaces in our city. We saw the value of being able to make use of temporary and flexible spaces to meet unexpected needs. For instance, we converted meeting and convention venues into temporary care facilities for recovering COVID patients. Then that frees up our acute hospital care facilities. We also did the same with disused buildings like school buildings, etc. So this pandemic showed us the importance of planning and providing for buffer in our urban fabric to enable in a way a rapid response to crisis and unexpected needs. And we often need to review our plans and make sure that we have the reflex as well as understand the various stakeholders' needs in order to have that flexibility that when new needs arise, we know who to speak with, we know some of the concerns the community and the stakeholders might have, and we are able to then quickly adapt and respond. So I'll leave it at that. We can have a further conversation later. Thanks, Kim Hwa.
Thanks, Yu-Ning. I think it's a very interesting way to look at how we are looking at the process rather than, a very fixed end goal that we are going after. But, with all this disruption that's coming in, that disrupt all our plan, I think we really need to rethink how our process of architecture design, our engineering design, and we are very actually happy that we have very diverse panelists today with us, from planner to architects to engineer to building specialists as well. Maybe can we hear from Roger, who is representing SG Glass, to share with us from the building materials perspective how that can also respond to this kind of pandemic crisis, and also the larger pollution and environmental resilience that, as from the building material perspective.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time. It's an honor to be among all the architects today and to speak of building materials. I'm from SG Glass, mainly towards glass, but what I like to say is architects are like the painter and building materials are like the paint itself. And it would be really interesting to see how building materials companies are able to push the envelope of technology, innovate, and find new solutions where less is more. We're able to use a single building material to solve multiple problems, such as the recent innovation, light emitting surface that will be featured in Archifest. Such a technology encompasses light technology, glass technology, and other multiple different variations of technology together to be able to present what we see today. So beyond light emitting surface, we also are trying as a building material company to work with various agencies such as the A-Star, SGBC, to collaborate to find newer technologies to combat a lot of problems we see today. And once again, this topic will never end, and I would love to continue this topic once more. But as you can see, there are a lot of ways to push the boundaries of what we have today. So back to you, Keng Hwa.
Thanks, Roger. I think it ends very well. It's about pushing the boundary and also about rescoping what is our role as well, beyond design and beyond the traditional means of looking at building, but looking really at the material itself. Roger, I would like to actually take a look at the material beside you. It's really interesting. Perhaps you want to share a bit more?
Yes, I'll be honored. This is a piece of sample, a smaller print, that is featured in the winning architectural design by ADDP this year in Archifest. We use the technology light emitting surface, or also known as SIA-LES. It's the print that is able to light up when electrically charged. And this is one of Singapore's first innovated and patented technology, where it's also accredited and certified by SGBC as a green product. So we are proud to be one of the few glass company to carry a patent while innovating such a technology where we are able to print any graphics on glass and illuminating it like never before. Back to you.
So architects are really like a painter, like in your analogy now, that we can paint lights into glass. I think that's really, push our imagination and boundary. And I also really like to acknowledge ADDP and OWIU for doing such a innovative design. We know that it's really not easy at this point to respond to so many complex issues and factors, and I think the building material come into play as well to see how we can ensure this safe distancing while still bringing the community together. Just want to share that it's a really challenging debate, or I would say interesting debate among the jury when we are deciding which of the winning entry. And I think the scheme that ADDP and OWIU presented really stood out because of the deeper level of understanding the inner nature of people wanting to come together, perhaps after the pandemic. So, but yet still in a safe manner. So there's a lot more layers that we can actually go into, right? But with that, I would like to bring back to the construction industry, because very interesting that we are looking at building material, we're looking at how we plan our future city. And also, I think, Richard, just now we have a conversation, we also talk about not just planning the design itself, but planning about the process of design, process of construction. Richard also chairing the construction industry joint committee. Yeah, so perhaps Richard can share with us more what you think about this.
Yeah, in fact, this COVID-19 pandemic actually changes the way people thought about construction. Now, I think the sequencing of the individual trade becomes all the more important, and also the so-called the process where the workers come to the site, go to their workplace, do their work, go for their meals, continue to do their work to the time they actually exit the site. All this process need to be planned, and then it's something that we never really thought of. But it comes so real to us now that we need to really think through basically how to get very simple tasks to be done, and yet avoid any crossover between different groups of workers on a very small site. It's indeed a very challenge, not only for the so-called the contractors, but it's also very challenging for the person who designed, because he needs to be so-called equipped with the knowledge of how to put things together, not just designing and then let the contractor do the building work. I think in times to come, architects will have to think deeper and to see how to put a very simple, or it can be a complex thing as well, things together step by step. And all these things has to be done with social distancing in mind. And that is something that I challenge the architects to really think through your design and make it happen step by step.
Well, I think definitely there's a lot more consideration that we need to have, looking at the new construction methods and also the processes. I think we also want to see how that can perhaps also bring us closer to how we used to live, maybe. How our relationship with each other, our relationship with the building, and our relationship with the larger environment as well. I would like to hear from Dr. Hossein on this issue. As an engineer, how do you see this perspective?
Thank you, Keng, for the invitation. And yes, as Richard said as well, COVID-19 has created a lot of havoc. It's been a great threat, but it's also been an opportunity. It's given us an opportunity to reflect, to look at the past. For me, one of the opportunities that is offered me is to catch up on my reading. And I've read a few books that I've always had in the back of my mind to do. One of them is a book called Ruined by Design. The essence of the book is that everything that we have now has been designed by someone in the past. Things we've not got here by accident. It's been a design. Our system of governance, our buildings, our cities, our education system, etc., our built environment, and our relationship with the natural environment is been by design. Now, some of the what we're getting now have not had the desired effect. And it is good for us to reflect back and see where things have gone wrong. In my opinion, one of the biggest challenges that we are facing now is in our distance between ourselves and the environment. If you look at the natural environment, you look at forests, you see a symphony of colors, shapes, forms. Every tree is different, every branch of the tree is different, every leaf is different, everything is bespoke in nature. You contrast that with our cityscapes, with our built environments, you see that everything is vertical, everything is horizontal, every floor is either square or rectangle, every angle is 90 degrees. There is a poverty of shape and form and a wastage of material, whereas in the nature you see a richness of shapes and forms and a frugality of choice of materials. Every tree trunk is the size it needs to be. It's not any bigger. It's very frugal in material. So I put to you that one of the major challenges that we're all facing now, climate change, global warming, etc., lies in the contrast between these two images. I don't know whether you can see it on the screen. The contrast between the image of our cities, built environment, with the image of our natural environment. And the solution to our problems lies in moving away from that image of our built environment closer to the natural environment. So the challenge to the architects, designers, town planners is our future cities should look more like the image on the left, which is nature, rather than the image on the right.
Wow, that's really inspiring. I would love to live in a city that's full of trees and back. You know, I grew up in Malaysia. I always go back to my hometown where we can, you know, the kids are running barefooted. But we hope maybe we can bring back some of this. But I think that requires a lot more innovation and imagination among all of our architects, engineers, artists to really reimagine that kind of lifestyle as well. But having said that, I would like to hear from Madam Chin, having been in the practice for 40 years, you were saying?
40 years, yeah.
Wow. In both public and private sector,
yes.
You know, maybe you can share with us what kind of experience and also what is your vision, you know, for this post-pandemic environment.
As we all know, this pandemic actually has affected every facet of life, with people having to get used to the new ways of doing things and to live life differently. But I suppose, from my perspective, I don't really think that it will affect much on the way of how architects design, approach design in the future, but it will probably impact several aspects of the building designs, and it may warrant a relook at the design emphasis in terms of environmental consideration, technologies, and so on and so forth. Just to, I mean, time is ever changing, and we can't really predict what is in the past not necessarily will continue for forever. So we just have to change our mindset, like what Richard has been saying, change our mindset and adjust and adapt and reinvent and probably
I think
strive from this.
The winning design by ADDP and OWIU also give you a chance, the team the chance to actually rethink some of this idea, right? And perhaps that also help to inspire other architects and designers to see whether we can rethink. Although our innate nature may not change, you know, we still have a longing for social interaction, community, close to nature. I think, but what you're saying, I think it really resonates with all of us, is that the mindset has to change, right? To respond that there may be disruption every now and then. It may not be economy, it can be environmental, it can be health. Next thing, who knows, can be any other thing, right? So it is how we really think. I think that come back to how Yu-Ning has mentioned earlier about the flexibility in the planning process. Is about not planning for one end goal, but the planning exercise itself actually equip the planners and designer to able to think on their feet and respond in the very responsible way, in a way. Yu-Ning, you want to add on to this?
Thanks, Keng Hwang. Yes, hearing that conversation, also reflecting on how much of what we do, we are trying to, in some sense, be evidence-based. So trying to understand what is the evidence out there, how can the changing, especially during this period, how can changing activity patterns impact the way we plan? And the challenge for this point in particular is that we are trying to see what are the permanent changes that are happening and what is the temporal changes that are happening. Some things like work from home, will it be sustained? As we've seen in some of the other cities, like say Shanghai, a lot of people, like 90% of the people are back in the office as per pre-COVID days. In other cities, it's a lot less. So what's the trend going to be like in Singapore and how will it evolve? So that's a big question mark. But I think there are many no regrets moves that we can nevertheless make. For instance, during this work from home period, a lot of us are accessing the facilities near our neighborhoods. So the convenience and accessibility of amenities around our neighborhoods, the greenery, the park spaces that we can plan for easy access by the residents, that is definitely a no regrets move. And that's something that we continue to strive in the planning of our towns and our neighborhoods. So things like that, but there are other things like work from home and long-term impact on office. Is that going to be sustained? How does that begin to change our CBD? There are some things that we have put in motion that will already be moving office CBD away from just a singular use, but towards more mixed use. Like last year when we released the master plan, we had in place various new schemes about introducing mixed use into the city, like our CBD incentive scheme. So that is already trending towards making the city more mixed use. And I think that again is a no regrets move. So we're trying to balance between doing the immediate moves as well as gathering the evidence to see what else needs to be adjusted for the long term. But like you say, Keng Hwang, it's very much a process. So building the reflexes, understanding what are considerations, and adjusting our plans along the way. Back to you, Keng Hwang.
Thank you, Yu-Ning. Yeah, so I was involved in the Jurong Lake District steering com earlier, and there's a lot of things that I think we suggest and plan, but of course none of us expect the pandemic. And then but I think I do agree with Yu-Ning. There's a lot of things is more like a permanence that we still will have, like the mixed use, and then that will actually help to run the CBD not just as a commercial center but also have multiple usage and all that. I don't know whether that could actually link back to Dr. Hossein. How do you see then some of the CBD that we are designing can have a new kind of twist or outlook in future?
Yes, I think what Yu-Ning said is absolutely spot on to the point. We need to, in dealing with this pandemic, which someone called it, is a wicked opportunity that we should not miss. It's actually a threat, but it's also an opportunity. We need to see which changes are temporal and which changes are permanent. And if we mix these two up together, then we're going to go the wrong route. It is important that we isolate ourselves, as we are doing, but that is a temporal thing. It's a temporary thing. If we set our policies in the direction of isolation as a permanent thing into the future, then that would be a wrong decision to have made. As the minister also said, no one person, no one profession, no one country can deal with this pandemic and situation like this. It is an international movement. It is a holistic approach to these sort of problems that are needed. And if we take this isolation that we need in a temporary condition and then exaggerate it into the permanent condition, and everybody goes into their own sort of pigeonholes, then no good thing will come out of that. So it's very, very important to know which one is temporary, which one is permanent, and how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that really also bring back the idea that some of the changes may be just temporary, right? I think we still want to get together, although now we are 1 meter distance apart. But we in time to come, I think we can have back our normal situation where we can have seminars, we can have convention and exhibition, and we still want to push that kind of boundary as well. But on the other hand, I think one of the things that we didn't foresee such a big change is the digitalization. I think all these years, many of the sectors, including I think our offices, our university, everybody is trying to push for digitalization, and suddenly within a few months, everything digitalized, and it makes it possible. Perhaps that could be one of the longer term kind of change. I think Richard, you also mentioned about digitalization. Would you want to elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, I think the COVID pandemic actually forces everybody to really think again the work processes. I mean, pre-COVID time, we cannot imagine actually we can actually work from home. I mean, for architects, it's a lot of touch and feel thing. But yet, now, as we are going through this so-called pandemic, we have to so-called get ourselves used to digitalize. I mean, how to work from home, how to use technology to still achieve the same thing that we wanted pre-COVID. Now, think about even the students. Nowadays, you actually can attend class at home. Then the parents actually work from home, and I don't need to go to site. There are somebody at the site with a video camera walking around the site to go to the detail that I want to see. And I can see 3D from there, and I can get feedback and make decision of what to do. So even I think, if I may say, some agencies are also looking into that, looking at inspections for TOP using using a technology to do the inspections. So these are things that are so-called unthinkable pre-COVID. But now we have to get out from our comfort zone and start thinking, is there another way to get the same thing done without going there physically? I think this is something that the technology is there, and it's just whether we are comfortable to adopt it. Yeah.
I think it's really right to say so. Even our forum today is also something that we have been planning for months, how to make it possible. And we really have to expand our mindset to see whatever that technology that we can leverage on, then we can actually make it happen. And that actually, I think I would like to hear from Roger as well. I heard that SG Glass also venture into other kind of technology that can help architects to deal with these changes as well. Roger?
Yeah, hi. Okay, so we do venture into various technology, and one of the more relevant or interesting technology I feel we can share, it's we are trying to make glass more transparent. What we are trying to say, it's imagine a glass with very minimal reflection. It's almost as if there's no barrier. So this is one of the many types of technology that we could push ourselves towards. For example, another one that we are currently developing is such as the antibacterial glass, where we are able to pretty much have the glass treated, and it will be hard for bacteria to grow on that particular piece of glass. So there are many instances where we start to find problems where traditionally we do not have an outright solution or a limited solution to the current problem that we face today. And with this understanding or deeper understanding of the technology, the next step is how we're going to roll this technology out into the market. And of course, in the end, introduce to architects to see how it's relevant for them to pick it up and use it.
All right. Thanks, Roger, for sharing that. I think there's a lot more technology and also innovation that we can look forward to and see how that can actually ties in back into our architectural design and also planning process as well. I just want to go around the panels. Any one last thought that you want to share before we end the session today?
Hwang?
Yes, Yu-Ning?
Yes.
Yes, Yu-Ning?
May I just contribute this point that with technology and this digitalization, it's not just about doing what we do online now. It's also about thinking how does it begin to transform the purpose and function of different spaces. Just take the example of office. Now that we have found with the acceleration of this trend of working from home that it's a very viable proposition to do a lot of your work from home. So then what is the purpose of the physical space, physical office, and how do we then begin to redesign and perhaps focus the physical office on collaboration, innovation, interaction, etc. And spatially, how does that begin to change the design? How does that change our buildings altogether? So that is something for SIA community to think about as we move forward. Thank you.
Wow, Yu-Ning just give all of you a good challenge to rethink office spaces. What does it mean?
And not just office.
Yeah. And that extend to other typology as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, in terms of office space, one of the feedback that we have received from our staff in the past few months who've been working from home is that, we can do our work from home, but we want to come to the office to socialize. We want to come and meet our friends and have a coffee and have a chat. So the office is changing, places are changing their roles, that we used to go and socialize at home or elsewhere and come to office to work. But these guys have realized that they can do the work or a big chunk of it from outside the office. They want to come to the office to socialize. But if I may say something representing my profession, my fellow professions, engineers and things, I think every time we talk about technology, we should thank an engineer who has worked very hard to create the facilities that we have. Advent of technology and digitalization in design and etc. has always been progressing, but we now see how without this we would totally be paralyzed and not work. So, should thank an engineer.
Definitely. I think our engineering crew here will also agree. I think it's really, conversation like this really help us to expand our mind and expand our scope and also to challenge each other to see how we can actually do something even better, to look at what we have, what kind of technology that we have invented or innovated, like what SG Glass has shared with us, like how the engineers has also prepared us for this pandemic to come, and then we are ready to able to actually work from home. I don't know how in ADDP, how is your work life in ADDP office has been like?
We are slowly getting everybody back to the office, but I suppose it's just human behavior again. It's a matter of getting used to things, but of course we don't encourage that to turn into a habit. Right? Because the moment you're so comfortable at home, working from home, you tend to work at home in that sense, right? But like what we were saying, I mean, this whole pandemic actually testing our limit in a way, right? So you still need the productivity.
We still need to come together.
You still need to socialize.
Work, collaborate,
you still need
socialize.
to see each other, hear each other. The human touch is still very important. You have to differentiate between work and home, Right?
Yeah.
What is office? What is home?
Yeah.
You don't mix them up.
Yeah,
So-
sometimes work from
Yeah.
home also meaning that you can work very late at night and
Yeah,
you forgot
that's right,
that you're that it's
So become
home.
habitual.
Yeah.
That's very bad in a way. Yeah.
So our mental wellness, our physical wellness, I think all this has to be
Yes.
taken into consideration
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think with this conversation, I really hope that that really sparks a lot of ideas and also a lot of new questions that we may want to ask ourselves or challenge ourselves for the coming months of during this festival. As we have lined up a series of workshops and forums for all of you to participate in and continue this conversation. I don't think we just end here. Today is actually the start of Singapore Archifest 2020. And with this, I really like to thank the panelists today to share with us all these wonderful insights. URA Chief Planner Yu-Ning, thank you for joining us today. Roger from SG Glass, thank you for sharing with us all the innovation that material can come into place to help architects and engineer, and together with engineer, inventing all this new technology. Well, I'd like to thank Dr. Hossein as well to give us a different perspective to look at this new situation. And of course, ADDP partner, Madam Chin, and new SIA President, Richard, to lead us to the next venture. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session today. We would like to welcome you to join us at Singapore Archifest 2020. I'll see you at the conference next week. Thank you. See you. Good night.
Thank you everyone on this panel for this meaningful discussion on how we can place architecture at the front line. It is indeed a timely conversation for us to explore our abilities and resource readiness for new changes in the world. May I now invite all panelists for today's opening forum to come back on screen. We would like to take a screenshot picture together for keepsake. Is everyone on screen? Because I can't really see it too. Once it's taken, someone let me know. Okay, we probably have to have somebody screening everyone on the screen together. Alright, so I believe that the screenshot is taken. We shall say yay to the end of today's forum. So Singapore's Archifest is a significant platform for both the general public and experts to learn and appreciate our built environment. Let's co-create a beautiful and safer world together. I wish you all the best in the upcoming month. Please enjoy the food festival. So thank you everyone for granting us your Friday night, and a very, very good night to all.